people who'd been to acting school and theatre groups, and kind of young actors who had some experience. But then I kind of realised that the technique was a little bit theatrical because a lot of people were trained for theatre. So I had worked before with non-actors, so I was quite comfortable training people, and what we did was we sent out casting notice all over Havana. So we gave out flyers to everybody in Havana, all of the kids that we could find. We went to schools, we went to parties, we went to the beaches, we went to concerts, everywhere, and we gave out these flyers, and I saw over 2,000 teenagers in Havana. We had these huge casting sessions and everybody would come on the weekends. And it was, you know, it was fantastic because I met a lot of other people who were involved in the film through the casting process as well. And I was lucky enough to find these 3 actors, and we worked for a long time together. We trained together for about a year, so I was in Havana for a long time working with them. So it was a long process. I went to Havana, I think it was 2002, and the first kind of moment that I got there, I was just very stunned by the visuals, by the energy, the people, the stories that I was told, and it just was something that I had never seen on the screen before. And between that time that I first went there and now I went to film school, and I was going back to Cuba all of the time. And this story is, you know, there are a lot of influences in the story, things that are very personal to me, and then things that I've seen other people going through and experiencing. So many people in Cuba have a relationship with this idea of separation, and people who've left and being left behind, and it was something that I wanted to look into and to discover. And working with the actors as well, a lot of the story evolved through our workshops and through kind of talking about the roles and making them really own the roles so they felt comfortable as their characters. So it was a long process. There a lot of people go from Europe and have a holiday in Cuba, and they're a normal family going on holiday and experiencing what a tourist normally might experience in Havana. And I suppose with that I was kind of showing another perspective of Havana from somebody who comes from the outside, and kind of usually I think when you have a story told, often the story is told by the tourist going into the country in, you know, English, and I didn't want to do that. I wanted it to be a Cuban story, and I wanted it to be about the 3 young people in Cuba, not about the tourist family, but it's a kind of another perspective that I wanted to show in the movie. I don't know if you know what happened at the Tribeca Film Festival. They were invited to come to the States, and they came and they disappeared. Yeah, at the Tribeca Film Festival, 2 of the actors didn't come to the festival. They went, and they went to Miami, and when the plane touched down, they disappeared. So there were a few days when nobody knew where they were. So they are now going through getting their paperwork and things to stay in the States. But I don't think that it's necessarily a true representation or a true interpretation that, you know, all Cuban youth want to leave. I think there's a lot of Cuban youth who are, you know, also want to stay in Cuba and improve the situation in Cuba. And this is one story about 3 young people in Cuba. It's their story, it's not everybody's story. It's specific to their situation. And I'm not trying to make a political story about the whole of Cuba. It's something that is about this group of people. And so, yeah, but the reality is that that they are not in Cuba anymore. They're living in the States now. So yeah, we're really lucky with the permits, and we had great producers in Cuba who have got great relationships with the authority to grant permits, and we didn't have any problems with the script at all, and we were kind of left alone to make the movie. So it was a great experience, really. And Sandy Perez Jr., Santiago were kind of working with Miranda, who is from an institution in Cuba, and they made it all possible. It worked out really well. So I think from when I started making the film, I wanted to be as open to what was happening around us as possible, so that we could incorporate anything that was interesting. For example, the elderly gentleman who's walking along the street singing, he was walking along the street and was singing, and so I thought it sounded good, and we turned the camera on him, and we shot that. But we really did stick to the script pretty rigorously, and there are definitely moments that, because I went back to Cuba afterwards with a very small crew, and we picked up just kind of things that were happening in the streets and little moments. And Cindy Lee, our editor, was very good, and she used a lot of that in the cut and the edit in the end. So it was I really wanted Havana to be a character in the movie as well, so you could really feel the place. So yeah, I think that Cuba is there's a very prominent sexual vibe. But I kind of wanted to bring that to the fore, to contrast that with Lila's experience in the movie, and to kind of highlight how she is going through a transition, and she's not necessarily comfortable with that, and how it makes her character feel kind of awkward in certain situations with Raul, for example. So that was important to me. But with Elio's character being gay, there's a lot of kind of very kind of macho behavior as well in the youth, and people kind of just jokingly call each other gay and stuff, and it's kind of, there's like a very open homophobia, and I really wanted to address that. And for me, Elio's character is really the center of the film. He's the heart, in a way, of both Lila and Raul. They both, really care about him, and he really cares about them and looks after them. And it was important for me to address that, because it was something that I noticed repeatedly, and it made me feel uncomfortable. So I wanted to kind of bring that out in the movie. So yeah.